So on behalf of Power New York, I'd like to welcome you to this special conversation on Native American Women Equal Pay Day. An important reminder that here in the US, Native American women make 59 cents for every dollar a white male earns. And that's, not just a number, it's a barrier, it's a lost opportunity, it's a multi-generational impact. But today we're elevating a powerful story. We're joined by Jessenia Rivera, an engineer, a tradeswoman leader, a fierce advocate, for Native communities and for women in non-traditional careers and trade careers, and so much more. Her journey is living proof that when access meets opportunity, change happens. So welcome, Jessenia. And before we get started talking about your amazing career path, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Hi, so my name is Jessenia Rivera. I am Dene, Piche, and Taino. I am here as labor leader and Indigenous woman in the field. I'm one of many labor leaders and Indigenous women in the field and men. I currently serve with International Native Women in Trades as one of the chairs. I am also the communications chair for the International Taskforce on Tradeswomen issues. And I'm also a rank and file member of IOE Local 30, International Union of Operating Engineers.
In addition to having a busy family, a busy job, you have a lot going on there. Well, tell us a little bit about your job. So you're about to kind of get started with your shift today. It's Sunday evening. So what is your job? What do you do? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am what's called the day two engineer, which is stationary engineering. So essentially we have operating engineers, the heavy equipment side that builds the buildings. The day two engineers or stationary engineers stay with the buildings and maintain and run them. So I'm part of that department where I stay with the building, I maintain, run the building. I currently work in a hospital, so it's considered critical operations. My day-to-day is going around, fixing things, cleaning filters, making sure all the equipment's working. And if it's not working, how can we escalate it to make sure it's back in service, especially if it's like a critical need for the hospital.
One of those critically important jobs and things that we just take for granted. We go to a hospital for whatever reason, we assume and believe everything's going to work, but there are folks like you making sure that it really does. So, thank you for that. So how did you get to this job? Was it something that you had this lifelong goal about, like you were, a kid and you're like, I can't wait to kind of get my hands around, this, my tool belt and the equipment. Like, how did you land in this job?
It kind of came to me. So I didn't grow up in a union family. I didn't grow up really understanding what unions do. But I knew how to work with my hands. My father owned many businesses. He owned a automotive shop. He built our house from scratch. I helped him. So I was always around, the automotive industry. And I even went to high school for BOCES, for automotive restoration and repair. I didn't know if I wanted to do it long term, just because of some of the harassment I had faced being in that program. My teacher was great. He defended me, he protected me, but I wasn't sure that the world was ready for somebody like me in the field. So I ended up switching and going to college. I got pregnant in college, was forced to leave the college because they couldn't accommodate like daycare needs and stuff. So I was working 3 jobs living in New York City alone, just to make ends meet. And by the time the trades come around, I had already been working in various fields, various jobs. I was working for the city of New York as one of the top associates in the parks department. And I couldn't afford to live in New York and pay my bills with that one job. I had to work other jobs to make ends meet. And one perk of working for the city was I got to talk to everybody, including the engineers that worked for New York City Parks. And one of them, we got to know each other over the years. And he asked me, like, if you could change your life or do anything different, what would you want to do with your life? He's like, because I can't see you pushing paper for the rest of your life as smart as you are. And And I kind of was jokingly like saying like, well, I would want to do what you do. And I laughed about it. He was like, oh, well, we have an apprenticeship. And I was like, what's an apprenticeship?
Mhm.
And, he spoke to me about it. And I didn't even know this existed. And, and it changed my life because I went and applied. And once I got in that first year as an apprentice, I made $20,000 more than having two jobs combined working together. And I couldn't believe it. And that wasn't even to most folks, that wasn't even a lot of money. Like in my union, they were like, oh yeah, that's just the start. This
Mhm.
is not where that's not gonna be your pay forever. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what? You mean there's more? And that's really how I got started.
It's amazing. It made such a change in your life, and you just happened to find out about it almost accidentally. Women make up about less than 4% of the workforce in these trade jobs. Tell us some about the benefits, for these trade jobs that people may not understand.
I mean, I'm still learning what it's doing for me
Mhm.
as I grow and learn and become, more involved with advocacy. But what it's done a lot for me. It's elevated me out of poverty. It's
Mhm.
it's done tremendous things for my confidence. It's not just giving me economic stability, it's given me mental stability, it's given me,
Mhm.
physical stability, it's given me a lot of things. What it did for my son was even more impactful, because at the
Mhm.
time he was in middle school when I got into the trades, and he was in a weird period where it was like
Mhm.
he was either going to follow the crowd and get lost with his friends, or he was going to kind of stick to what I've been telling him. And it was we were in a little bit of a battle with each other. And I think watching him coming with to the union events with me, rallies and so on, he kind of
Mm.
got a sense of the union family and what life was really about, not what his friends were saying it was about. So it kind of
Mhm.
steered him back into the direction. He started focusing on school. He started saying, he's even interested in getting into one of the trades.
Mhm.
Um, but it really like I feel like it saved his life in so many ways that I'm eternally grateful for. And then what it's done for my community, for my people, I've been able to go back and elevate my communities and go and speak to and help bring and recruit and find other Native women into the trades
Mhm.
and build a network. That's how International Native Women in the Trade got started. It started with two women
Mhm.
and one sign, literally.
Right.
And then we all held a meeting that first year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago in December of 2022. And we all decided that we as Native women needed a space in the trades to elevate and mentor and help grow Native leadership because we exist
Mhm.
and we're here and we're in
Mhm.
the trades. We're not phantoms. We're not relics, and we're not extinct.
Mhm.
We're here and we're very much alive.
It's really such a compelling story in terms of the, personal and, family and economic, stability, having this type of opportunity created and like being like very kind of, brass tacks here. It's also benefits. It's healthcare. It is pension. It is union access, right? So it's the pathway to middle class and everything that comes with that. So it's really interesting. But so obviously it is hugely impactful. But let's flip that because it's not without its challenges, right? So
No,
what are
no.
some of the challenges that you faced and maybe still are facing?
One thing, and I'll use male suicide as an epidemic in this country now, and it's an epidemic in the construction and building trades. We know
Mhm.
that. That's being shed upon so much light for the first time in years.
Mhm.
For women, it's harassment and gender-based violence. We
Mhm.
experience violence on the job site at a much higher rate, and it's higher as by different ethnicities. And with Native
Mhm.
American women, along with in society, we face the most gender-based violence and harassment. In construction, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's not considered an epidemic yet. But how many women have to die or get assaulted or
Right.
get raped before they start saying this is an epidemic in construction and building trades?
Mhm.
Um, so that's one of the biggest things, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to talk about because the answer should never be don't go work in the trades. Not when they
Exactly.
offer so much economic stability. The answer should be what
Right.
are we doing like with mental health, what are we doing to mitigate and stop this once and for all?
Mhm.
So
How can we,
there are conversations that are starting to happen, but not fast enough.
and what do you think are some of the changes that need to happen specifically that could address some of that?
I think it starts with accountability. Um,
Mhm.
Accountability on all ends, construction companies, um, unions, stewards, everyone across the board, even, women themselves need to find, hold accountability that this is real. And just because
Mhm.
it doesn't happen to one person or another person, or, it's happening.
Mhm.
And, everyone wants to go home. We always preach safety on the job sites, building trades, construction, no matter where you are, we're always preaching safety. And everyone wants to go home. The same way you came into work, you want to go home from work. And I think that needs to be part of that conversation too.
And talk a little bit about the sense of community that is created with the some of the groups that you belong to and that you're leading. Like, what are you doing to make someone feel not so isolated, even though she may be the only one at a particular job site or particular facility? Like, what are some of the things that you're doing to create a sense of support and a sense of
Mhm.
community to battle that kind of sense of isolation?
I'll speak a little bit from personal experience. The reason I found out about some of these groups, well, I shouldn't, and helped co-found one of the groups was because I started experiencing violence on the job site and
Mhm.
harassment, and it was bad. I felt alone. They made me feel isolated. There was a lot. My union
Mhm.
stepped in to help, but only so, they can only do so much when the job site itself is actively fighting.
Mhm.
Um, so I started reaching out, like searching, like, are there groups out there? I know there's women in the field, so I know there's women in my union. Um, and I started searching, and that's how I found the National Task Force on Tradeswomen Issues.
Mhm.
They've been around for 20 years. They've been doing policy changes. They've been doing, mentorship, leadership trainings. Um, and that's how I got involved. I joined the policy group because I wanted to know what my legal rights are, how I can fight back, how I can help my union fight this back, um, and show that this is a real issue for me. Because when I went to my business manager, I said, I want to leave. I didn't join the union to be bullied. He was
Mhm.
like, no, you need to stay here. You got this. We can do, we'll make sure you get through this. And that was great to hear support, but I still felt a little bit alone because I was like, okay, I still have to go to work every day. I don't get to see my business manager every day protecting me. So what are my other options? And part of that was with the task force. Building a network, building community, um, you know, learning what rights are, how I can defend myself, and taking those rights and bringing it back to the work site is how I won my case and my story, and
Mhm.
I'm still here working at the same site that I had the very issues in, and I'm respected on the job now, and
Mhm.
I'm not brushed over. And if I have a real concern that involves safety or my safety, I'm taken seriously.
Right.
So that was one, and then the other part was the creation of international Native women in trades who are also experiencing these issues at a much higher level on a much smaller like lens, because it's not being broadcasted, it's not shown on TV, it's not there's no light shed on it. So it's,
Mhm.
you know where we created the space for us, by us, to help elevate some of these real issues and bring light and shed light and elevate each other through, our own resiliency and sovereignty as
Mhm.
sovereign people.
So it's interesting because a career in trades is such a great opportunity. It's not without challenges, but it's worth fighting for. And there are resources and networks there, to help women.
Yeah, and there are a lot. Since I've gotten like much higher, now I'm the communications chair. I started as just a regular member. I see literally how many organizations, how many communities are out there that
Mhm.
believe in the work we do, that support us and know that we deserve and need to be in every one of those spaces.
Absolutely. And speaking of another resource, can we talk about Wanto for a minute? So for people who may not know, women in apprenticeships and non-traditional occupation programs, it is part of the U.S. Department of Labor. And what I remember, just Sunny, you may not remember this, is that we were on a Power New York leadership call, and I think it was October 1st. And you were a little bit late and you were really tired, and you jumped
Yeah.
on and you said, I have such exciting news. Congress has saved Wanto, and you were such a big force along with a lot of others in making that happen. So tell us, like, why was that great news? What does Wanto do? Why was it worth fighting for? And how did you guys even go about saving it in this political climate? Having a success of that type is something um, too rare, but something really to cheer about. So tell us why, like, the whole call erupted when you made your announcement.
I will preface by saying when we started that campaign, we were
Mhm,
coming off North American Building Trades Tradeswomen Build Nation conference.
mhm,
Um, so I was exhausted, and I
mhm,
was still in Chicago when we got the call about the funds not being released for Wanto, Wanto is critical because it funds organizations and women-led organizations or people that are looking to get pipeline into the trades that don't through pre-apprenticeships, through funding transportation, whatever the community needs, it helps fund that. And it's usually between like $5 and $7 million a year that they'll fund, or between like 5 and 7 organizations to help pipeline women into trades, give them the skills they need to get into unions and union jobs and registered apprenticeships. Um, and it helps, get a lot of communities out of poverty, or
mhm.
elevate their socioeconomic status, which is what they want, which is what we want as people in this country, right? We don't want people living off of benefit of
Right.
welfare benefits. We want them to be able to fund and live their lives the way they,
Mhm,
they quote unquote call this American dream.
mhm.
Um, so we got the call. I had to get on a call about the DOL is not releasing these funds, so they don't look like they're going to be pushing for it. Um, and it was like, how do we make sure that these funds are released, that this money does not get lost? Because there was also in the wake of the shutdown, so
Mhm.
they were closing their fiscal year. The shutdown was looming, and I think we had till September 31st or 30th, I believe,
September
September
30th.
30th
Yep.
to get the funds released. Because after that, there was no chance of
Mhm,
any discussions on it. Um, so in 6 days, we started rallying. We put together a social media campaign, a call to action, an organizational sign on.
and which
Um,
group was this? I know that
the
lots and lots
National
of people were involved.
Taskforce on
Mhm.
Tradeswomen issues kind of led it,
Okay. Mhm,
with equal rights advocates backing us. We had Chicago Women in Trades backing us. We had so many
mhm,
organizations that jumped on to help push our campaign forward.
mhm,
Um, so, but we were like essentially the ones running it, and
mhm,
and it was a lot of work. I had to we and I have to thank my one of the chairs for National Task Force, Janelle Dijon, because she helped me create some of the posts because I
mhm.
was just so tired. I'm on like a phone. I'm out in Chicago. I didn't have access to my computer, so we're both like sitting there creating posts on our phone in real time
Mhm.
on this call and like
And I
getting it
loved
approved.
the Where's Wanto campaign.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was like, hey, why don't we do like a similar to a Waldo? Where's
Hmm.
Wanto?
Hmm.
So that was it. And every time over the next 6 days that DOL had released a post, released a statement, did a statement, I was tagging them with another post about where's
Hmm.
Wanto, where's Wanto, where's Wanto. Um, to I was actually here at work at like around 5 o'clock, I want to say, Monday night. I believe it was the 28th or 29th. And I was walking, doing my rounds, and I got the text that said, hey, there was no press release, but they released the funds.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what? I froze. I couldn't believe that in 6 days with the organizing and the campaigning that we did, and the sign-ons and people just sharing why it's so important and sharing their stories and the push that we managed to get them to release the funds.
Hmm.
It was $5 million to 6 organizations. And it's a big win. It's a big win for women
That
across the
is
country, for tradeswomen, for
absolutely,
everyone.
absolutely. All right, so congratulations to you guys, and it is such a windfall. And it means so much, and it was such a great moment of excitement, not just for the folks on that call, but just really what it meant and, just the achievement in this climate. So that was really wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win that I think I carry personally because I sacrifice so much
Hmm.
time, sleep, like every waking moment. I've never spent so much time on my phone. Every
Hmm.
waking moment was following to make sure people understood and heard that this needed to be, why this was important.
So I would love to ask, so we've hopefully like piqued the interest of, some women who are learning about a career path that they had never considered before, and they understand all the benefits it brings. So they're sitting there like, sounds wonderful. I can't wait. Jessenia and all her colleagues are doing such amazing work. I have resources out. What now? How do I get started? Where would I even, think about going first?
So depending on where you are, you would have to look and see what unions are around. First you have to figure out what kind of, if you want to go union or not union.
Mhm.
Look towards pre-apprenticeships because many times in states and certain specific areas, like in New York, we have New, we have Rise Up. We have
Mhm.
several programs that do offer like pre-apprenticeships that do direct entry into certain trades.
Mhm.
But it also gives you a real hands-on feel because you get a little bit of in those pre-apprenticeships and in those groups, you get a hands-on feel of like kind of like a little bit of everything in construction and building trades have
Mhm.
to offer. So you kind of get a sense of where you would kind of really want to be. And those are really great starting points. If you know in your heart's heart that you want to be an electrician, if you want to be a stationary engineer, then you would look specifically to those unions, what their prerequisites are, even for your
Mhm.
apprenticeships that offer specifically just for electricians, and see what the prerequisites are. If you can meet them, and if you can't meet them, how can you get there?
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, if you go to those offices and go to those groups and you don't necessarily have those requisites met, they can give you guidance on how it can be met. Or if it's a gray area where it's technically not a prerequisite, but it would help you, they
Okay.
can help you get those things. Um,
And
like,
BOCES?
BOCES is also a great option.
Mhm.
I don't know if I think in Long Island they still offer them in schools and maybe upstate, but if you getting into hands-on through BOCES, like I did automotive training. They didn't have like a like a union, like they didn't have anything for construction. But now
Mhm.
even like for my son's school, my son's in a technical trades high school.
Mhm.
They do offer carpentry, they do offer HVAC, they do offer plumbing. Like so there those are some options for high schoolers if you think that's a career path, you don't think you want to go to college, but you still want to make great money, why not?
Absolutely. So we'll include those resources either on the end of this video or on the Power New York website. And I'm hoping that there are lots of people inspired to do, the great work that you're doing. So thank you so
We
much,
do
Jessenia.
we do offer what resources on the National Task Force on Tradeswomen issues.
Okay,
So I'll
fantastic.
be able to send you that website, but we have from across the country.
That is great. So thank you so much, Jessenia, not only for expending your time, sharing, your perspectives and insights, but just with all the work that you do and the inspiration that you are for all women. So thank you for that. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too.